Welcome to the Mandalorian After Show. We're talking Chapter 2, The Child. We have boss fights, we have Jawa fights, and the Force is strong with the cutest thing that's hit the galaxy. Stay tuned.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, with the buzz.
Welcome to the ship, y'all. I'm so excited to break down this 15-minute, 25-minute episode. I have to throw in my shade early. Really excited. We're back with the #1 draft picks in the Star Wars galaxy. I'm Steph Sabra, a.k.a. Chewbacca's long-lost daughter, Master Sabra. I am on the Star Wars news show with my co-captain, Rilo Ren. He's also the head of Popcorn Talk Network.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Ryan
sir.
Nilsson, that's his real name.
Thank you so much. Ryan Nilsson is my name, and I'm so excited to be on this ship with this crew. We are in for a shorter episode, and I cannot wait to talk about it.
And to our left is the Marvel News panel.
Hey, wait a minute, that's us.
That is
They
us.
are massive Star Wars fans as well. We have Grand Admiral Zia Anderson.
Hey!
And Grand Moff Christian Blatt.
Hello, and I believe our after show will be longer than the actual episode.
It will, actually.
Blatt chat. Blatt's in the chat.
I'm in the chat, and shout out to Nick Centazone, or Centanzi, I already said his name wrong, but he's there early. You got time. Give us your comments, your questions, your concerns in the chat.
Christian is our man in the chat. He will be handling all of your guys' conversations with us because you are as much a part of this panel as we are. But we'll break down this episode. We're going to hit Mando and the child and kind of the relationship forming between them. And then Jawas, the egg retrieval, the fights that happen, and the ship and fixing the ship and what's going to happen next. And then a little conversation of where the woman at?
Where they at?
Where they at though? And then Ryan will have our special segment.
Yes, Disney plus or minuses. What worked for you this episode and what didn't? We'll get into that.
Grand Admiral Zia will have our news and gossip, which is juicy this week.
Yes, it is.
So let's just get into our overall thoughts of Chapter 2, Ryan.
All right, Chapter 2, The Child. Bit of a mixed bag for me, I'll be honest. I was looking at this episode with a more critical eye. The first one blew the doors off Disney Plus. It's this whole new thing. And now, all right, we're settling in. And a lot to like this episode. I loved seeing the Jawas. I loved some awesome developments, some reveals we learned about certain characters, some certain cute characters. Really dug all that. However, little curious about the runtime. Clocking in at, honestly, 27 minutes and 15 seconds. I calculated, it doesn't start till minute 15 in, and then it ended with 3:45 left. It was 27 minutes and 15 seconds. Last week was on Tuesday was 44 or 40. So I'm a little curious what's going on with the runtime, especially when you have the time, and if it looked like there's some editing choices. $100 million. So yeah, there's some editing choices I wasn't a big fan of. This could have been longer, but there's so much to like this episode as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. There was a ton about this episode I loved. I honestly, personally like the pacing of it, but I feel like none of us here are going to disagree that the runtime is just really disappointing. Because that's like sitcom timing almost. It's like, so you got 5 extra minutes over a sitcom, and there's a lot of story to tell, and I don't mind them taking their time to tell this story. Like, I liked everything we got in this episode. I just wanted more of it. Like, I just wanted more time. I just wanted to, I like spending the time to get to know these characters. And there's just so much about it that's amazing, that is what makes Star Wars amazing. And they managed to put it all into this. So just being a massive Star Wars fan, you're watching, you're like, oh my God, I love this, and I love this. Jawas, obviously, there's so many little things, plus you're getting introduced to new things and new creatures, that it's just, that part of it is so fun, but 27 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing too. It's almost like if you didn't, like, before you clicked on it, if it didn't say, it says 33 minutes, but Ryan's right, a lot of that's filler. So it's really only 27 minutes. But going into it, you're like, oh, this is going to be really short. And I thought that this was an hour show that we got shortchanged in episode 1. No, it's a half-hour show. We got a little extra in episode 1. So I was so excited for this 8-hour Mandalorian movie, and now we're going to get about a 4-hour Mandalorian movie, which is still going to be great, but it's half of what I expected. But What we did get was amazing. We'll talk about all the sights and some of the sounds in particular that I personally enjoyed. So I was glad with what happened, but it was like, oh, we were talking beforehand. Why was this just not the second part of the first episode?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think all the streaming networks, they're trying out new different types of marketing ways to get people invested in the show. Star Wars doesn't really need to do that because people are going to be invested regardless. So I think a part of it was, it seems as though chapter 1 and 2 was one episode and they wanted to give the fans 2 episodes in 1 week to really hook them on the story. I don't think they needed to do that. I do think it's interesting. Dave Filoni, which is George Lucas's young Padawan,
yes.
He is very integrated in this show and in the Star Wars universe, and he does all the animated series, which is similar to the runtime of this episode. So it kind of seems like his mark is greater than we think, if that's the case.
Right.
I'm not sure, but I do wish we got a little bit more. But there was a lot of great nostalgia of the original trilogy, I think.
A New Hope. I mean, you made a great point, actually, just finishing up with that stuff on the runtime. Like, yeah, we got 2 this week. So for all we know, this could have just been, hey, we're going to put the shorter one the same week as the first one. This was week 1. We're going to be getting 1 every week from here on out. So I think it's just more of a question of, we don't really know what the standard length is for these episodes quite yet. And that's a little...
I really want them to be an hour.
I really hope they're longer. But
Yes.
but you're right. I mean, so many cool callbacks to A New Hope. We got some awesome Jawas this episode. And just seeing like more into the Jawas, I thought that was so much fun. And I cannot wait to break it down.
That Jawa landcrawler moves a lot faster than I thought it could. Like, we never saw one move that fast before, because they've never been in pursuit. They've never been trying to escape. So it was kind of cool to see it in a new way too. So yeah, that was pretty exciting to you start hearing and of course the Jawas make that Jawa noise throughout the course of those sequences. So that was exciting.
Let's talk about the elephant in the living room. That's quoted from our producer in the booth, Jeff Graham.
Jeff Graham in the booth.
Not a Star Wars fan, but very much a fan of us. So
I'll quickly shout out that Elephant in the Living Room is a wonderful band, and that's where I got the name from. So check them out.
Okay.
So, the Force. Let's just get to it. The child and Mando. I am just loving this interaction between the two. There's not much dialogue, obviously, because one's a 50-year-old baby, but I think that they're really... there's an interesting thing to be said that Mando, what we know about his past is that he's a foundling, and he lost his family and lost his childhood in a sense, and is on this journey of trying to keep someone's childhood in a sense. What did you guys think about the journey and the boss fights in the beginning?
Wow. I really liked it. I dug
Yes.
it. I dug it. I thought it was dope. I think carrying that through the Jawa storyline, it picked up right where the last one left off. He's leaving that basically that murder scene, and IG-11 is just parts on the ground there. And I think it's interesting. He goes back to his ship. Pieces are taken, and he chases after the Jawas, which I thought was an awesome scene. And it was even more terrifying because Baby Yoda in his little crib is being pulled after him. So while he's on the side, like that's speeding like a good 50 miles per hour. This baby's just on a hot rod right now. And when he got vaporized and stunned and fell off, I was so worried. I thought he was done. But that armor is pretty tough.
Yeah, there's a reason he has it, definitely. I loved all of it. First of all, did you guys notice that his gun vaporizes pretty much people? They explode into little bits of
That was
nothing.
very cool, yeah.
That was awesome.
So awesome. And I know, Steph, you and I kind of did the same thing before we were talking about the show. I cannot get over how cute
Look at this!
Baby Yoda is. Oh my God.
Wow.
I'm trying not to be the typical woman Star Wars fan, but good God, if my baby doesn't look like that, I don't want a baby.
I was telling Steph and Zia before, I had literally just dropped my almost 2-year-old daughter off at preschool, and she had fallen asleep in the car. So I was holding her, and it was that look on her face where they're just like exhausted, but they're actually so happy. So of course, here in front of an audience, I have to say that Baby Yoda is almost as cute as my baby girl.
That's not
adorable.
what he said off the
Maybe
air.
off air I said that Yoda's
Just
even
saying.
cuter, but it's so adorable.
So
So
cute.
I'm just saying it's not a gender specific thing. It's just this is the most adorable thing in any system and throughout the entire galaxy.
It's crazy.
Every
so
time it
cute.
gets out of its little floating carriage to start to walk, I'm just like, I can't handle this right now. I cannot. But I did really, again, I think that they did such a great job with the choreography and the fight sequences. I really love the way they're doing that. They're handling it very well. So that I really enjoyed. So and the Jawas, always amazing.
Jawas. A lot of small creatures this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really fascinating to actually get to see inside the sandcrawler in a spot we hadn't really seen before. Them driving off how he couldn't fit, and he was like dug.
And then they laugh
Hit
when
his
he hits his
head.
head.
Yeah.
Right, and he has to go back and get Nick Nolte's character, which I think we found out the name.
Will.
Quill.
It's got
Quill.
two eyes, so
Quill?
it's like
Quill.
Quill. Yeah.
Quite, and get his help again,
Yeah.
which I thought was really fascinating, and having to prove himself by getting the egg.
Yeah, I'm
egg.
happy that we got Quill.
We got Nick Nolte back?
Nick
Yeah.
Nolte
So
back.
now we have to
love
go
that.
back to calling him Nick
I know.
Nolte.
I love his character, but I thought it was interesting because the child tried to use the Force a few times throughout the episode before actually really performing like no other.
Oh my God,
And
yeah.
at the end, we kind of understand that both Nick Nolte and Mando don't know what the Force is because we're picking, I think after Order 66, there must have been no talk about the Jedi or the Force because they
Right.
seem to not understand what's happening
Right.
at all. What are
And
your
who
thoughts about
knows
that?
like how I'm so sorry.
No,
Who knows
go.
like how far out in the galaxy they are. Like they could be I mean obviously he knows about what happened with the Order and everything, but it definitely seems like he doesn't know about that, but I wonder like you said after Order 66 if they're not talking about it or if he's just so far out that Jedis aren't that wide. Maybe there weren't that many of
Right,
them
but
to
I
begin
also
with.
think if you remember in A New Hope, the way that Han Solo talks about the Force is it's basically like some, it's like an ancient religion and like wizard mumbo jumbo. So it's stuff that like people didn't believe. They maybe heard of it, but they're like, yeah, but that's not real. You can't like make giant beasts like levitate. You can't shoot lightning out of your fingers. That's crazy talk. You can't do any of that stuff. So I think anybody who has heard of it doesn't think it's real. So probably the word doesn't get spread throughout the galaxy of like, look out for those Jedi. It's almost like just like King Arthur in the Knights of the Round Table. It's like, oh, here's some stories about the Jedi. Well, of course they're not real. So I think that it's just something that they don't. Why would they have ever encountered the Force, especially Nick Nolte's character?
I wanted to break down like the Force, the way that this Baby Yoda used the Force. And if you look back to the original trilogy, when Yoda shows his display of the Force, Luke's trying to lift this ship, and then after he can't do it, which is it's a heavy ship. Yoda does it.
Not if you use the
They're
Force right,
focusing-
Ryan.
Not if you use the Force right,
just
correct.
saying.
But the
Also,
idea.
Yoda's just made of midichlorian.
Oh boy, we're opening a can of chlorians. But the idea that this 50-year-old baby Yoda can lift something like that beast, that really heavy rhino
Sure.
beast, and is a baby. That means that it must be one of the most powerful Force users out there.
Well,
Maybe
keep in
it's-
mind that he gets exhausted afterwards and he needs to
Passed
sleep.
out.
Kind of like
Tuckered
the
out.
character Molly on Runaways. She's super strong, but then she needs to take a nap right
yes.
afterwards. So I thought that was great. It's like, yeah, because he's like, oh, I've got the Force. But man, I am tuckered out after I use that Force. And he like slept through the rest of the episode, which was adorable.
I
But
actually had a folder of photos, Jeff, on the desktop of just photos of Baby Yoda. Just adorable photos of Baby Yoda.
I think you should share them with all of us, and then
should.
I can put them on my desktop. I feel like I need to see baby. It's
gonna be my
I'll
background.
replace the pictures of my kid on my phone. with Baby
Seriously,
Yoda.
I don't want to see any more couples holding hands pics, like
No.
traveling. I don't
No.
want to see any of your child or your pregnancy photos. I want to see this. Give me this or
But-
give me death.
Look at that.
When you have a moment, Jeff, that does remind me of the meme that I showed you a little bit earlier. I did email it to shows.
Wow.
Yeah, the
And,
internet's loving
yeah,
the child.
They're loving the child. So when you have a moment and you can grab, there's 2 photos that I emailed you. It's the same one where you were playing the clip from earlier.
I don't know if we've had a display of someone. He's 50 years old, but
Yeah.
this young using the Force like that. That's what's so just amazing.
You gotta
to me.
look at
Without
it
a
this
master
way.
either.
Luke Skywalker's like 23, 24, and I know he's not a master at that point, but he's able to use the Force. So, I mean, this Yoda is like twice as old as Luke Skywalker. So you know,
weird.
and he's just born with it. And you know, who knows what his experiences are? Like, did they have him confined from birth? Was he on wherever this planet is that Yoda's from? You know, did he get some training? We don't know. So I think a lot could have happened, but yeah, maybe he's just born and he just kind of knows. It's like you know, you hear people talk and that's how you learn your speech. Maybe he just realizes he has it. So anyway, this is the meme that I saw, and we have to give credit to Michael Whitaker 408 on Twitter. Not necessarily a fan of the show, but
That's
we didn't
hilarious.
want to steal his graphic and not give him credit. I just thought that this was great because
stealing his girl.
you know, and if you can go out there and replace Mando with Baby Yoda,
Wow.
and then the guy in the plaid shirt, make it me. That's what I really want.
And your wife is the one next to you,
No,
like,
it's my babies.
your babies.
Put my two
okay.
baby. I'm just completely ignoring them for Baby Yoda.
Just your family's Ray right there.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, that's a great meme. I absolutely
love that meme. What do you guys think do you think we're going to continue to get more? Because we talked earlier before the show that this is really following Mando, and
Yes.
the cameras on him at all times. Do you think that we're going to be able to learn more about this child, or only as it pertains to Mando?
I really hope that we get to see more about this child. And as it pertains to Mando, yes, sure, because I'm already incredibly invested in that character.
Me
even
too.
though, Steph, you said this, even though you can't see his face, you still love him.
Love.
You just can't not. And you just they give you little tidbits as the episode goes on. You're like, I really like this character. So I'm already completely invested. But that being said, I would not mind if they pulled away and gave us a little bit more of, we just keep calling him Baby Yoda, Baby Yoda's backstory, because I want to know more. I want to find out more about what Christian was talking about, how he knows to use the Force and how he's so powerful so fast. Did he do any training? Like, I want to know all of those things. So I am hoping for that, but I am also really loving their relationship, and just following them through this storyline is also really great.
It reminded me a lot of Mr. Incredible and Jack in Incredible 2. And that there's this little tiny child who's so powerful, and it's sort of a wild card. You don't really know where it could go. And I think now that we know this Baby Yoda's Force sensitive in a big bad way, there could be some major moments where, like, maybe Baby Yoda has a tantrum. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Jeff did this on the fly, so we have to appreciate the fact that he's already altered this meme.
Wow,
I
Jeff.
love Baby Yoda wearing Mando's armor.
I bet you Baby Yoda would be
love
so
that.
down for that.
He would.
Oh my
And of
God.
course, Rey is just as pissed as she was before.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Ryan,
Yeah,
though.
it's Jack.
Yeah.
There could be a situation
No,
where
'cause
Baby Yoda has a tantrum and is force
Baby
choking
Yoda,
everyone.
Baby Yoda
I'm
could
just saying.
No, Baby Yoda could save your life, or he could burn down your house.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of that, it was interesting. It looked as though he was going to heal Mando, and that would have been crazy if we saw that sort of ability in a child.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And Mando's like, get away from me.
He
And he's
saw a
like,
wound and was ready to, I don't know.
And
Mando
he's
didn't know what he was
stapling.
doing. Yeah.
He's like, let me close your cage, kid.
Stop trying to get out.
I'm trying. Yeah,
gosh.
I'm trying to staple myself, like Ryan said. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I wonder if he can heal him.
That's what it opens up a whole new
Whole new
box
realm
of
of the Force.
surprises. It's Pandora's box in The Mandalorian.
So many questions to ask. I thought it was really fascinating that the Jawas wanted the egg, and it ended up just being like silly putty.
Let's
Like,
get to
Well-
that. Let's get,
Okay,
because
sorry.
well, before we do get to that, I do want to say, if you guys are in the live chat, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Christian is manning the chat. Please hit that like button. Leave us a comment after this video ends. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, give us those 5 stars. Leave us a review. We love to keep the conversation going, because an hour's not enough time to talk to you guys all about what's happening. So
But it is enough time to watch 2 episodes of this show.
It's true. It's true. The shade shouldn't
shade's not gonna
stop because you did this. So let's get to the Jawa. My clunky. Let's get to the Jawas. So we see them stealing from Mando's ship in classic Jawa form. I was so excited to see them, and it was really funny that that Nick Nolte's character knew to do a trade-off, and it ended up being this egg.
an egg.
Well,
First, they wanted his armor.
Yeah.
Then they wanted the baby. They're like,
Yeah.
we'll take the child. And then finally they settled on, okay, the egg. And I think that was my favorite part. When they all, like, favorite comedic part, it was so funny. They all start chanting, the egg, the egg, the egg. They're, like, so excited about this
minions.
egg. Yes.
What were they going to do with the baby? Were they going to eat it? Like,
Maybe.
because, or do they just know it must be worth money,
That's what I thought.
I think that's what it was. But yeah, I thought that was really funny when they all started chanting the egg. And yeah, I mean, Nick Nolte reasons with them. He's like, he's a Mandalorian. He can't give you his armor. All right. Like, just let's be realistic here. And then the egg. And of course, well, I don't know if we want to talk about the egg itself instead of how he actually has to get it.
Right.
I almost jumped ahead there.
Facing that beast.
Yeah, that was a crazy scene.
Yeah.
I was really excited for that, but then I started to get sad because I'm like, this is a mom or some sort of parent protecting their egg.
Yeah.
You savages!
I know. And the little Jawas are just like, those eggs are delicious. They're a delicacy. We're going to need to eat it.
Look,
Sorry.
I ate some eggs this morning. They came from a chicken. So,
That's true.
it's a circle of life. It extends throughout the galaxy.
I watched it and I said, once we got to that ending point where they just dug in, like, you lost all your humanity.
It made me realize that underneath the Jawa hoods and the glowing eyes, they're all actually Winnie the Pooh because they went after that like he goes after a
That's
jar
amazing.
of honey.
It
That
looks
was
like
funny.
her.
I watched that scene and said, I don't think I can eat eggs anymore because that was the most
Yoki.
vivid scene of that fully being a child forming, and then what did I eat for breakfast? Eggs. Like,
If it
Wow.
makes you feel
Masochist.
better, the eggs are not fertilized, so they have no chance of becoming baby chicks.
okay,
if that
great,
helps.
great. So let's
is
just talk
great.
about the fight scene before.
Yeah.
Mando gets beat up, which I like that they're showing him not
Yeah.
always winning. I think that brings a humanity to him that I didn't know if we were gonna get. I don't like the perfect warriors. I like the ones that are learning on the go. Ryan, what are your thoughts about that?
This reminded me a lot of Attack of the Clones when Jango Fett has to fight that other rhino-like beast in the arena at Geonosis. It really harkened back to that. And what was fascinating was he did shoot it a bunch of times, but his gun, his vaporizing rifle, was broken. He was all covered in mud, stuck in the mud, literally, and he couldn't really get a clean shot off. So it was just a one-on-one fight. And he looked pretty doomed, resorting to a knife at the end there.
Which, by the way, that was I mentioned this in the trailer watching it for the second time with Christian. That was my one, like, small issue at the episode. I was like, how did that small, tiny knife bring down that beast? Unless that's where his brain is, or like there's something there that I don't know about. But I was like, that is a tiny knife. That is a giant beast. And as soon as he stabbed him, he went down, like, didn't bleed
instant
to
kill.
death.
If you had
Like,
set up the fact that the blade had some poison in it, just anything, but it's just
something.
like you put a little fork, in like the side of an elephant, and it's gonna be a while.
Realistically, that wouldn't have pierced
Yeah.
through his skin.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a metaphor for women when they carry knives in the streets, and it's like, what do you think's gonna happen? What do you think you're gonna do with that little?
Yeah.
Well, nothing.
Yeah.
Are
You're
you
going to
taking-
stab the guy and he's going to be like, oh, ow.
Yeah, but are you taking on a bantha with your knife?
That's what
you're-
it feels like when I leave the indoor in the comfort of my house. I go outside and everyone is that creature.
Yikes.
That's actually, what?
We're tiny
That's the world
women.
right now.
Oh,
Tiny
boy.
women.
I agree, though, Zia. It was. I feel like he should have a longer blade on him.
Yeah, something that would have, at least at the very least, if he started bleeding out, or if he had a bigger blade where he kind of like stumbled and fell, but it was like instant.
And his armor was messed up.
Yes.
Mangled. His chest plate is just totally torn in half, like pointing forward.
Oof.
He was done. And Baby Yoda saved him.
Yeah, he did.
He really
so
did.
when we talked about how they returned the egg, but the whole rebuilding of the ship was a really cool scene, especially with him and Nick Nolte. And Nick Nolte's playing no games. He's like, let's get to it. Stop complaining. Let's just fix this
shut up.
together. But I do find that character interesting. It seems like that might be the last we see of him, at least for a while.
Yeah.
And we get to know a little bit more about him, that he spent his whole life trying to get out of servitude, so he doesn't want to be doing that. But I don't know. It's kind of sad, but it was a cool moment. It was a good closing.
What I love about him is that, again, he says he can't take any money. You're my guest. And then also the thing about he's spent a lifetime trying to not serve, so he's just here to help, and he really is just like, thanks for bringing peace back to my valley. That's though he does have a great moment when Mando says this is going to take days to fix. If you'd care to help, it might go faster. But he did not say more than twice in the episode, I have spoken. I was hoping for at least 4. So I couldn't make a drinking game out of it for this episode.
You wouldn't have been very drunk at all.
No.
That's not a fun one.
A little
what I was
buzz.
drinking.
Yeah, I guess you're right. 2 shots is not like
Probably-
nothing.
It depends on what I dropped into my blue milk.
Ooh.
So
Some blue shots.
And then at the end, he says, "Good luck with the child. May it survive and it pay you handsomely."
may it bring you a handsome reward.
Oh, thank you.
I
Handsome
have
was in there, though.
spoken.
You have spoken. You have served me the truth of the lines.
I have spoken.
It's so interesting. You brought it up earlier, the idea that they both aren't familiar with the Force.
Yeah.
At the end there, because he's like, you told me the story twice now. I'm not sure exactly what you think you
So
saw.
what happened?
I was honestly surprised that he told him. I don't know. I feel like if I found that information out, I might. I mean, the guy has gone above and beyond to help him. But at the same time, if you find that out, it's like, maybe I don't want to tell anyone about this, crazy baby that can perform insane miracles.
Do any of you think there's a chance that he recognized that the baby used the Force, but he didn't want to tell anyone? Is that possible? I think it's more likely that neither of them knew, but as we're talking about it now, that just dawned on me that maybe he's just like, I don't need to tell this guy anything more than he needs to know.
Oh, so you don't even think he told him about the Force?
He just said, like, no, it just stopped. So he's just, because he said, like, tell me again what happened. He's like, I can't.
And we don't know what he told him.
Right, we don't know what he told him. So he doesn't know what the Force is, or is he just lying because he's trying to, keep the information very local, as it were?
Yeah, that's interesting because in the little clip that we do get of Mando's past, we do understand that the Force could have been used in some sort of sense when he was a child in some sort of flashback, and he knows a little bit about it, but doesn't really know too much to speak on it or to trust to speak on it.
Or he's seen it and he just doesn't know what it's called or what it means or anything behind it. He's just like, okay, this thing happened. Yeah, that's a good point.
One last thing on just that ending scene.
Yeah.
With when Baby Yoda does that. The fixing the ship and all that. The one thing I was just hoping for, and again, it harkens back to that runtime, is I just wish we got to sit in a few of those scenes a little longer.
I agree.
I wish we got to really feel that desperate, this rhino is running at me right now, I'm about to die, just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because it felt like it was just edited very quickly. And those are certain moments where, you have the time. I think if you just maybe let it play out for a few more seconds, even with the building, like show me how long it took to build that ship back up. It couldn't have just been one night. It must have taken a while.
Yeah, they just did a little montage with
was
that,
a
like
montage.
an 80s montage just without the music.
Yeah, the only thing missing was a Van Halen song.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
actually would have fit
It
perfectly.
almost felt like they were trying to accompany commercials. Like, we have to hit this time, but I really don't think they have a time limit. So I don't. Did you guys feel the same way? Like,
No,
I think there are a
totally,
few of
yeah.
these moments that could have been just a little bit longer.
And I think those moments, I am a dialogue person. I totally fall for stories and shows that have strong dialogue and character building. And I think what you were saying is, in the ship, we could have had that conversation of what did he tell him about the Force. It might be on purpose for us not to know, which would make sense too, but it could have been a really strong point for conversation.
As a
agree.
huge fan of streaming services, so many get accusations of bloat that I wonder if Disney Plus is just doing everything it can to try to avoid those accusations, and maybe it's costing them.
Well, I think because, Christian and I have covered almost every Marvel show, and that was one of our bigger complaints with those shows on Netflix, because that's a good point, Jeff, is that a lot of those seasons were 13 episodes, and for us that did feel a little bit too bloated. There were episodes maybe you didn't need, and things you didn't need, but I do think that with 8 episodes, you can take your time, because 8 episodes is not a lot. Like, I think we actually agreed that 8 to 10 episodes was kind of the sweet spot. And I don't mind a slower pace and taking the time to really, like Steph said, delve into the characters and get that development and get that dialogue. So I think that 8 episodes is the perfect time for 45-minute to an hour episodes. I don't think that that's too much bloat at all, but that's a good point.
Yeah, no, and what you're saying, if some of these scenes got to breathe just a little bit, we're not asking even for more scenes or more. I mean, we would love that. But if it didn't move along quite as quickly. I mean, I did like some of the little details, like the fact that the Jawas had waited a long time and they were like, "No, we're clearing out of here." I thought that was something that helped us realize, it took a long time. And Nick Nolte even says, he says to Nick Nolte, "I'm surprised you're still here." It's like, I'm surprised it took you that long. So I think that we did get some of it, but I would have loved to have gotten just a little bit more, for like how long all of this stuff took.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see moving forward with the next episodes. I do hope that they are longer. And if they're not, then pack them well, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm still happy with it because of the scenes that we did get were awesome. I just do wish that it was a little bit longer.
I think someone did say in the chat, if you go up a little bit, Christian, find the person that said it, basically that they think that right here, Drunken Koala.
Yeah. Great screen name, Drunken Koala.
Nice.
I think it would be better to combine the two episodes. It would have flowed better. Absolutely. I think that's definitely what we were saying. Drunken Koala also says Baby Yoda, best part of the show.
Yes.
We're not alone.
Yeah.
We're not alone.
And Gerald Boney says Mando pulled a 60s Batman with that climb. If you remember how Batman and Robin used to climb up the side of the building with the ropes and celebrities would pop out. Except in this case, it was Jawas throwing junk at him. So that's a great call. That's a great call. Funny, yeah. There's a very 60s Batman feel to that sequence.
Completely agree.
One thing I want to talk about is, we mentioned it, where the women at? So Gina Carano, we still haven't, I thought for sure we'd be seeing her in this episode, but we haven't seen her. And we also have another female character coming, Ming-Na Wen, who will be playing an assassin, which I'm so excited for, but we do know she is mid-season, so we can expect her by episode 4 or 5.
So like in 2 weeks.
But what about Gina? What are our thoughts about that? Are we disappointed she's not in here yet? Or do we want to see more of her? Are we okay with it?
Honestly, I'm okay with it so far, only because these first 2 episodes are such building episodes, and where the story is at now, it wouldn't make sense for her to come in. So I'm totally cool with it. I think that if we get her, I wouldn't be surprised if we got her in the 3rd episode. I would be more surprised if we didn't. So I would like to see her in the next episode. I'm sure he's going to cross paths with her at some point. I mean, she was like pretty heavily promoted that she was going to be a part of the show.
Oh, yeah.
She's a little co-lead.
Yeah. She's
a poster.
second listed. Yeah.
I would assume that he's going to run into more people. I mean, it didn't make sense to introduce a new character. I mean, we were talking about like Nick Nolte, a couple of Bosks, and a bunch of Jawas. There was really nobody else for him to interact with. It wouldn't have made sense. It seems like there's very few people on this planet. Mm-hmm. So I think it makes sense that she wasn't here. But yeah, at some point it's like, well, what are you waiting for? Like, why don't we get her next week if we don't? So
well, if the episode was longer than 25 minutes, maybe we could have gone to another location.
Yeah, honestly. She would have been in minute 28, but they decided.
I mean, again, it might just be because this is week 1. They put these 2 in the same week, and it's
I don't think so.
Kind of hard to accept.
I think it's going to be a half an hour.
Christian,
no! I really hope not. I think, look, next week we'll have more answers.
We'll know.
The things that are just up in the air are, it's been an inconsistent runtime. At this point, if they threw a 15-minute out there, I'd be like, whoa, but that's a possibility.
I would be a little bit more than whoa. If
I would freak out, but I'd be a little like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it might be another 45-minute or it might be an hour long. I think it's just the unknowing sense that's kind of worrying us.
Yeah.
So I really do hope we get either of these female co-leads. I'm also curious if they are going to be in the remainder of the season, too, because as of right now, IG-11's head got blown off. And like he's done. He had a character poster like Gina Carano did. So
that's a great point.
And there's no signs of Nick Nolte returning to the show. I mean, everything we saw of him in the trailer, we've seen. And he just left the planet. So it might be like he's passing through and these are characters along the way.
Look, and I know that, none of us want it to be a half an hour. If it is a half an hour, there's not a lot of opportunity for screen time for Gina Carano or Ming-Na Wen or anyone else, or any cameos from other people in the trilogy. Which
I also
would be nice.
know this has been compared to a Western frequently, and that's a huge trope of classic American Westerns is like the roving cowboy meeting people along his journey. So maybe that's sort of what they're going for.
It is called The Mandalorian. It's not The Mandalorian and
Friends.
So I guess, I am in love with his character already. I am so excited to see what else he will bring, what else we will find out about him, and following his journey is really exciting to me. So I'm not complaining. It's just interesting that they totally advertised women, or Gina at least, and other characters, and we're not seeing her yet. I'm not disappointed though, and I'm not mad at it because it's not their story.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll see.
We'll see.
Shall we get into our special segment?
Special segment, Disney plus or minuses. What is working for you so far with this entire new streaming service and this show, and what is not so much working for you? You know, we've highlighted on a few minuses, I feel, with this show so far in terms of the runtime and things of that nature. I'm actually going to start off with a minus, and then I'll give you my plus, and we'll go around the panel. First, the minus, I do have an issue that we haven't seen, those two characters. I just think it's more the marketing. If you're setting the expectation that we're going to get them throughout the whole series and we haven't seen either yet, it's a little thrown off to me. So I wish they either changed that in the marketing a little or maybe gave us a better idea of what to expect. I'm still digging what we're getting. It's just that's not what you advertised. Disney Plus for me, this is such a convenient service in a weird way of it's more convenient than other ones. I think it's more convenient than Netflix. I got a notification on my phone right when I could watch it last night and just popped it on. And it's so convenient. I love that. And I love how right at the end of the episode, it's like, here's all of our other Star Wars content. So you don't need hey, don't worry, it's a week away. But look, you have all this just at your disposal. Like, that is such an awesome feeling, and that you don't get with these other streaming services. You know, if you watch an episode of Stranger Things, it's not like, here's a bunch of other Stranger Things movies or other things of that nature. That's what's so great about Disney Plus, and it's such a convenient service. I'm digging it so far.
Yeah. And by the way, it might have sounded like Ryan paid for Disney Plus out of his own pocket. So this is not an endorsement, but I do agree.
You have a plus or minus?
I have a minus, which I sent to Jeff, and it is a super nitpicky, like high-level nerd thing. So when we hear some of the music when he's walking around with the baby, my first thought was like, oh, that's cool. That's a callback to some of the music from the original trilogy. And I'm like, wait, no, that's a callback to Star Trek The Motion Picture.
Star Trek?
Yeah. And I'm like, they totally lifted that, and I know we can't play a lot of it, but that's basically it. So if you go back and you watch it's that arrangement, but it's like, you know, it's a little bit westernized. And I was just like, all right, well, you know, there's not that much music in this show, so why don't you go ahead and just come up with your own stuff? You know, you don't need to steal the awesome Klingon music. But the pluses go right back to everybody's favorite, Baby Yoda, because even when he's not on screen, he's making these little cooing noises. He's cute when you can't even see him. Even when that thing was closed, you're like, I know what's in there. It's like how you love Mando even though you don't see his face. That the little floating stroller was closed, but you're like, I know what's in there. Cutest thing I've ever seen. By the way, love to get one of those floating strollers if anybody's got one.
Please.
I'd like to get a double one for both of my kids, but that's just me.
I would like one for just stuff.
For yourself?
Yeah, just
So that you
following
don't have to
around with
walk?
all my stuff. Yeah, without
You
a
could just
bag.
hover?
So
Be
convenient.
amazing. Yeah, pluses and minuses. I mean, I guess I'll just do Disney Plus because same with the show. I think a lot of mine are very similar, like runtimes are minus, and the music I didn't notice because I'm not a Star Trek fan. But now that you say it, so for one of the minuses for Disney Plus in general, this is also kind of like a weird nerd thing to care about. I don't like that it doesn't tell you what you've watched and what you haven't watched. Because on Netflix, you know how it shows you on the bar of like, oh, you've watched this episode. It doesn't do that on Disney Plus, and I'm like, if I go away from this show and come back to it later, just for me personally, because you watch, and I know a lot of you guys are the same, you watch so much different stuff that it's going to be hard to keep track of what episode you're on of what.
You know, that's actually a good point. I hadn't even thought of it because yesterday I showed my son half of an episode of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse on Disney Plus, and then I had to go find the second half of it, and it wasn't like how on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon where it has like, you know, like half a bar.
Continue watching.
Yeah, and like letting you know like this is the one you watched last time. So that would definitely be more convenient. And also, I find it to be a little disorganized. Yeah. Like when you look at the Star Wars, the movies aren't in release order. They're not in numbered order. They're just kind of, you know, like Empire Strikes Back is first for some reason. Yeah. They're all there. I think they're all there. Yeah. Actually, Solo's not there. And I think Last Jedi's not there. Right. But I think the first 7 are there.
Yeah.
And Rogue One's there too. Yeah. But it's like, so it's not organized well. And I don't know. I mean, maybe they need to Marie Kondo their presentation a little bit and just streamline it.
It's still new. Like they might just be working out the kinks.
Right.
Well, and that's the other thing too is that, you know, we on Marvel Movie News we were talking about some deleted scenes for Avengers Endgame that are up there, and depending on what device you had, you didn't necessarily see them all. Or I watched them with director's commentary. Zia had the option
Yeah.
of director's commentary, not director's commentary. And again,
both.
first week, there's a lot to be worked out, but there is a lack of consistency. So,
that is.
it is running a little McClunky, actually.
But yeah, that's definitely my biggest minus with Disney Plus. My plus with Disney Plus is The Mandalorian. Let's just right out there, just the fact that they have this show. I'm so excited to watch it. And just a lot of the content. I started watching, I talked about this on Marvel Movie News. I started watching the first Iron Man, and I'm just going to go through and watch them all again because they're all there now. Just the fact that you have everything is amazing.
And you're already watching X-Men the animated series.
I'm already watching X-Men the animated series. I'm on the 3rd season. I'm like, this is amazing.
It's so great.
I have 2 Disney Pluses. My minuses have been hit throughout this episode. One is that we talked about it on our Star Wars news show, 4 p.m. Thursdays,
Pacific.
PST, on the Popcorn Talk Network, our sister network. But I feel like Disney Plus was made for Star Wars fans. The fact that we have one place that has all the movies, all the animated series, now The Mandalorian, that's insane. If you told me that 5 years ago, would there be a platform that had that, I would say you're crazy. Crazy!
You got Rebels, Resistance, Clone Wars,
I'd like to be
everything.
nitpicky again because they don't have the
gosh.
Ewoks and Droids animated
Here we
series.
go.
Now, the Ewoks one's totally for kids, but the Droids one, I think if people watched it, they'd be like, all right, it's for kids, but it's sort of like how the Clone Wars is sort of for kids.
Yeah,
The
it
Droids
is.
show
It is,
has
though.
Anthony Daniels as C-3PO in it, and I think that people would like it, and it's not there, and I was kind of hoping. I'm not surprised that the Ewok show isn't there, but I would like to show it to my kids.
My other plus is that we do have the Force involved in this show. That is my obsession with Star Wars at its core, is the idea of the Force and what it stands for. So to not talk about that would be a huge loss because it is such an epic storyline, and what hooks so many people and what makes it relatable to real life is the idea of the Force in light and dark.
Yeah.
So love that.
Terrific.
Zia, shall we get into some news and gossip?
We have news and gossip. This one is really actually kind of hilarious. So it's an interview. I read the article and then I listened to the interview, and it's Pedro Pascal, who is the Mandalorian. He says the character's name.
What?
And we haven't gotten that. We haven't gotten that at all yet. So I know what it is, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to spoil it for anyone that doesn't want to know or hasn't seen the interview. But I did get this article from Gizmodo and Slash.
So wait, we're not saying that it's McClunky Fett? We're not telling people? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin it. Sorry.
It. You ruined it. But if you do want to find it, Slash Film found an electronic press kit of him doing this interview and talking about the character, and he kind of repeatedly says the name, and he does, when he does first say it, get a look on his face kind of like, oh, should I have said that? But he just kind of keeps going on with it. So I don't know if it was an accident, if they meant for this to get out before it was revealed in the show, if it's going to be revealed in the show, if it's going to have any sort of significance. We don't know that yet, but if you do want to know what it is, you can.
Sorry, I'm like sweating over here.
Okay.
Like, what is his name?
Okay,
I'm like, I need to know his name right now.
As soon as we're done.
Sorry.
Here's what we can do. After all the credits roll and everything wraps out,
I need to know the name.
I can hop on the mic and say it. So if you want to hear the name, after
okay.
all the credits roll,
There you go.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm like,
There you go. That's
He is
what we'll
bright
do.
red.
Well, actually, Ryan is the most passionate person, and I'm upset. I feel the heat radiating off
oh my
of
gosh.
for our
Okay.
podcast
he's red and
listeners,
sweating.
he's a different color. Like
I'm
it is.
sweating right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh, so you're
like
gonna
you-
find out his name in like 2.5
can wait,
minutes,
I can
right?
wait.
Got
So
it.
You can do it. So it's out there. We're gonna Jeff in the booth is gonna jump on and say the name, but the name is out there, and Pedro Pascal let it slip.
Also, one more piece of news, not as juicy, but thank you. At the
Pretty juicy.
At the Mandalorian premiere, Gina Carano gave some homage to our dear Padme and did the same hairstyle from Revenge of the Sith.
Aww.
So
Nice.
that was awesome, and it looked really cute. So I just thought that was cool, and it shows that she's respecting the roots of Star Wars, and I love that because she hasn't spoke. I haven't seen anything of her speaking on like the love of Star Wars that we've seen from people who become a part of the part
Right.
of the world. So I thought that was cool.
Really cool.
Oh, I like
Can't
that
wait
a
to see
lot.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we get into our predictions now?
Do it.
Before you drop the bomb?
Yeah. I predict we're going to know his name at the end of the episode. Okay.
Ryan.
Can I start?
Yes, right?
Yes.
Hit us off.
I'm predicting that next week we're going to get a ton of action because he's in space. Obviously, he's going to now deliver the bounty. And I think he's going to have a change of heart. This is all leading up to he's connected to this baby. Steph said at the top of the show, she nailed it right on the head in that he didn't really have a childhood. He got that stolen away from him by the Empire, from what we can tell. And he wants to make sure that this baby, even though it's 50 years old, childhood is still intact. I think that you said that perfectly. So I think he's going to have a change of heart. He's not going to want to turn this baby over. And I think it's going to happen right at that moment. And we're going to see a major shootout. And maybe some people are going to have a bounty on him.
Ooh, the bounty on the hunter.
I think the idea that there'd be a lot more action is accurate because one of the things we didn't touch on was the fact that the Bosks had that same tracker. So there are a lot of people that were hired to look for this kid. And I think the word probably isn't out that somebody's got him, but anybody who shows up at the planet, needs to find him. So I think a lot of people are going to be looking for Mando. So I leapfrogged Zia to give my prediction. My prediction is that the entirety of the next episode will be in space. He will not get back to the planet because he's going to run into too many people who are looking for him. And also, I set the line for running time at 21 minutes.
Let's predict it. Let's predict it.
No. Okay, I'm predicting runtime at 45.
Good.
This
Okay.
needs to be 45. So that's my prediction. Runtime 45. No, I do. Both of your predictions are really, really good.
Thanks.
I just piggybacked on his.
That's what I was going to say. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's like
right.
such good ideas. I actually kind of think that he's going to hand the baby in and then have a change of heart afterwards and go back for it. I think he's going to be like, I finished the bounty. I'm doing this. And as soon as he's walking away and maybe he hears what nefarious plans there are for this poor little baby, and he's going to go back and try to rescue it. And that's when there's going to be the crazy action.
I just have to
Nefarious.
call to our producer in the booth. He posed a question: is Baby Yoda the 11 of the Mandalorian? And I just can't stand you, Jeff. I just can't stand you.
Like an underdog.
Yeah, Millie Bobby Yoda.
Yeah.
Millie Bobby Yoda. I got it.
Millie Bobby Yoda. We're going to have Yoda waffles next week on the show.
Oh my God, are we really? I love that idea.
I'm in. Can we
Okay,
actually do
my
that?
prediction is similar to yours. I think that there's a huge empathy level that Mando possesses, and I don't think that he can give up the baby like this. I think the connection is too strong. So there's going to be some fights that start, I think, but I don't know if that's going to happen next episode, but I do predict, I don't know the details, I just think that next episode has to be epic. I think there's going to be a lot of action or something massive being told again. Something big has to happen. That's where I'm going to leave it at.
Something big.
And the biggest thing, Zia, why don't you give us the biggest spoiler?
We're going
Are
to
we
name it.
doing
We're going to name it.
Are we doing
Right?
the
Is that
name?
what's happening right
After
now?
the credits.
I think
and
after the
everything.
credits.
After everything.
It's a post-credit
people
scene.
can listen. Yeah, it's
Post-credits.
It's
Post-credits.
like
Okay.
yeah, it's like Nick Fury walking in and going,
So
well.
Wow. I feel like Leia in
But there
space
is
when she's like almost going to die has to use the Force.
Just bring it back.
All right.
You saved it with that analogy. That was perfect.
That is all the time we have. If you want to stay till after the credits, you can find out the release. But
The name.
anyways, until next Friday, Christian, where can the viewers find you?
We have a last question from the chat. RGD says, which streaming network gets canceled? DC Universe. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ, and you can find Zia and I Thursdays at 2 Pacific on the Popcorn Talk Network, our sister network for Marvel movie news.
1 Pacific.
What did I say?
2. That's okay.
It's
1
2:00.
Pacific.
It's 2:00 Mountain Time. I meant to
Exactly.
say for our friends in Denver.
Yep.
Mountain Time.
Yep, it is
Where can
Mountain
people
Time.
find you, Zia?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zia_land. That is XIA_land. And Rye Guy.
Yeah, you can find me at Ryan Nilsson and DC Movie News literally right now, probably in 2 minutes on the Popcorn Talk Network. Hopefully DC Universe is not canceled.
No, but it's gonna
Thank
be.
you so much for
It
watching,
will
and
be.
shout out to the chat for one of the funniest comments, which
Yo,
I'll let Steph Sabroth say
I'm
right now.
dying.
Please read it.
Crying.
Monolith Enigma, you are my arch nemesis, and you are what? Did you talk to my parents and find out that I looked like Baby Yoda when I was born? He said the host kind of looks like Yoda. LOL, LOL. I hate you, but I love you. I'll take it as a compliment. Anyways, did you plug our show, Star Wars News?
Star Wars News every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific. Popcorn Talk.
I'm crying. I'm Steph Sabra, aka Yoda, apparently. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabra. Until next week, may the Force be with you.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
All right, for our eager listeners, here we go. This is your spoiler alert. I'm going to reveal the name of the Mandalorian released by Pascal in an interview. The name, drumroll please, is Din Djarin. And if you want to see more on that, I'm pulling up Zia because I'm seeing something. Hop in, Zia.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's pronounced Din Djarin.
Oh, Djarin.
Djarin. I listened and I was like, what is this going to be?
Thank goodness. I brought the panel back on the mic. That's Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. There's great quotes about it. We'll go over it more next week. But as always, thanks for tuning in, guys.